This game in the Myst series. Plus, you walk the halls of Castle Wolfenstein with Drew Markham. And grab your battle axes for our review of Rune, the Nordic fantasy title from Human Head Studios. Stick around. It's game time.
Hello and welcome to our show from Metreon in San Francisco. I'm Kate Botello.
And I'm Adam Sessler. Now, when Myst came out in 1993, it was one of the first PC games to get mainstream appeal, due in no small part to it being one of the earliest CD-ROM games.
Now, there was a sequel to Myst in 1997, Riven. They were both created by Cyan. Now there's a new developer, Presto, working on Myst III, Exile. When Myst debuted in 1993, it revolutionized adventure gaming. Interactivity and gameplay were taken to a new level. Myst is the top-selling game of all time. Riven was the successful sequel that expanded the look and scope of the Myst realm. The reins of the Myst universe have been transferred from Cyan Studios, who developed the first two games, to Presto Studios. Presto is hard at work on the third installment of the Myst series, Exile.
It's the same basic puzzle setup which we had in Myst and Riven, and people are familiar with that. It's a very simple interface, almost lack of interface really. Sort of click around the world, wander around, stumble across a puzzle, have that as a challenge, let that take you on. It's so amazing being able to pan around in these worlds. While animations are playing, you can still look around, you can still pan around.
The story of Exile picks up 10 years after Riven ends. Atris and Catherine have moved into a new home, and they're trying to start a new life together and forget a lot of the problems of their past. The player's going to have to go through about 5 different worlds. The player's going to have to go through these ages and investigate the past and the story behind this villain in order to stop him from getting his revenge.
Hello, Atris. An age is one of the environments in the game. And what we've attempted to do is to try to create as many distinct environments as possible so that the player has a real sense of traveling to a lot of very different exotic locales. For example, we have ages that are completely organic, where all of the puzzles, all of the what would normally be mechanical devices are actually grown into the age.
In order to create a distinct look for each of the ages in Exile, design teams are grouped together by the age they're working on. Each team has a lead designer steering the vision of the level.
The age I'm working on is an inverted tree. It's the branches and the leaves are all inside the trunk. And this trunk of the tree is about 700 feet tall, 500 to 600 feet wide. We digitally shot trees and plants and flowers and that sort of thing, and then went in and manipulated them to get our surrealistic effect. I've never seen anything like it before in any game, and I'm really pleased with those results because it's dynamic. It's very, very dynamic.
Myst games really are about the story and the interaction with the characters, and we spent a lot of time really focusing on that.
I'm so glad to see you.
We have live characters which look real in worlds which look real, and you put the two together, and it's very difficult to make a distinction between what was, the whole, what is it live or is it Memorex? Was it CG or was it real people?
In addition to seeing characters and backgrounds, the player will also hear impressive new music composed for the game.
Ambient music in Myst and Riven was groundbreaking. The main ways we tried to improve on it were to do an orchestral score for the cinematics and to maybe give a few other pieces of music to tell the player they had accomplished something major in the game.
Now that the game is coming together, and every single person I show it to, when I see the smile on their face as they start to look at it, it balances out with this incredible sense of, oh yeah, I think we got it. I think they're really going to like this.
Myst III Exile will be immersing players starting in April. Now, we know that Myst is kind of considered a 4-letter word for a lot of hardcore gamers.
Now, it's interesting, though, how the game is going to be received when it's released, given how many changes have happened in PC gaming since we saw Riven.
And considering how few adventure games are out on the market to begin with, it ought to be a welcome addition.
Well, only time will tell. But until then, here's some game news.
Epic Games has spoken about the possibility of an Xbox version of Unreal Tournament. Epic's Stephen Polge told a French website that the Xbox version of the game will have all new content, taking advantage of the technology being developed. Sega of America has announced the release of the Dreamcast broadband adapter. The peripheral replaces the 56K modem on the back of the Dreamcast and is compatible with most existing high-speed ISPs and includes support for static IP, DHCP, and PPP over Ethernet. Ergosoft announced that it will ship its PlayStation 2 browser on March 29th in Japan. The browser is developed by PlanetWeb, the company that developed the Dreamcast web browser. With the use of a USB modem, users can browse the internet, send email, and play MP3s with their PS2. Activision will bring Tony Hawk to the Xbox in the form of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2X. The game will be more populated with objects thanks to the Xbox's polygonal capabilities. There will be an online component complete with tournaments, new levels, and the ability to construct your own soundtrack may be included.
If you want more coverage of the Xbox, make sure you visit our website, InsideTechTV.com.
We've got Bill Gates' keynote from CES introducing the new system.
As well as a full-length interview with Seamus Blackley, the Director of Advanced Technology at Microsoft.
Not to mention the footage we have of both Munch's Odyssey and Malice.
Coming up on GameSpot TV, we brace for Viking hordes in our review of Rune. And there's more fantasy ahead in our review of the follow-up to the RPG Grandia.
Welcome back to our show from Metreon in San Francisco.
Norse mythology is filled with epic battle and adventure.
Not to mention the mead and the boasting.
So it would seem the perfect setting for a game.
You know, it's actually kind of funny, isn't it, that there aren't more Viking-themed video games?
Very true, but at least Gathering of Developers has given us Rune.
Stand and face me, boy!
From the beginning, Rune had its use of Norse mythology to help make it stand out from the usual fantasy action fare that is continually churned out by PC game developers. Unfortunately, by the time you've seen only a few of the game's 50 levels of caves and mountain fortresses, you'll feel like you've seen it all before. Not that it doesn't look good. Using the Unreal Engine to great effect, the graphics are very clean and attractive. Unfortunately, it's what they are representing that shows a lack of inventiveness. Pretty rocks and lava flows only impress for so long. This is in addition to enemy models that change hue far more than they do actual design. Soon you will find yourself playing just to see if the next level is different. It never is. But playing the game does offer some satisfaction. This is due to the fact that Rune may finally have resolved the camera issues that plague third-person PC action games. As you play the main character Ragnar, you'll find the camera always at his back, preventing any deaths due to its inopportune placement. The actual gameplay of the game is primarily a lot of hack and slash mixed with basic puzzle solving and platforming. The combat is strictly melee-based and offers little complexity, reducing much of the action to hitting your mouse repeatedly. Rune offers nothing new, but also it isn't much of a setback in its genre. The Viking elements might seem novel, but they do little to distract you from the well-executed, mindless action. We give it a 3 out of 5.
Well done, warrior. The trial is over.
You know, it's interesting to note that Rune's gameplay style is ideal for a console, and now that there's all these next-gen console systems out, they'd be able to handle those stunning graphics. Now, Grandia was released for the Saturn in Japan in 1997 and was considered the really true competitor to Final Fantasy VII. It never made it to the Saturn in the US, but was released for the PlayStation. Now, though, for all you Dreamcast owners, there's a sequel out in the States.
Freezing rage!
Longtime gamers can be a jaded group. With the abundance of RPGs available on store shelves, it takes something extremely special to make them take notice. GameArt's latest RPG offering, Grandia II, is just such a game. You play a mercenary named Ryudo, who's hired to protect Elena, a songstress of Granas. His job gets complicated when it's learned that Valmar, the god of darkness, is reawakening, and Elena may be the key to preventing this from happening. Visually, Grandia II boasts some of the finest graphics on any console. From the 3D surroundings to the 2D animations, a high degree of detail is seen throughout the game.
Sworn enemies, you shall be defeated!
Special mention should be given to the English voice acting. Ubisoft's localization team outdid themselves in this department, directing a top-level cast with outstanding performances.
But hope as they might, the strange rumblings did not cease.
Of course, all these sights and sounds would be pointless without a means to interact with them. Fortunately, controlling Ryudo as he explores the world is easy and intuitive. The real star of Grandia II is the turn-based battle system. A combat meter is used for each character and continually fluctuates depending on the events of the battle.
This should help.
Grandia II is the type of game that will remind role-playing gamers why they fell in love with RPGs in the first place. The good versus evil motif might sound cliched, but the pace of the game never lags and the characters are endearing and likable. GameSpot TV gives Grandia II an outstanding 5 out of 5.
For all you PlayStation 2 owners out there that are salivating over Grandia 2, you may have a chance to put your drool cup away because there's rumors that it's in development for your system.
Coming up on GameSpot TV, we return to the Castle Wolfenstein with Drew Markham and get down and dirty with our import review of Sin and Punishment.
Welcome back to our show from Metreon in San Francisco.
Now, Wolfenstein 3D was a game that turned many a casual gamer into an addict in a matter of hours, and it also helped establish the highly ubiquitous first-person shooter genre.
Well, at last spring's E3, we got a sneak peek at the follow-up, Return to Castle Wolfenstein, which is due out later this year. So to whet your appetite, we thought we'd show you our interview with Drew Markham, the game's creative director.
Castle Wolfenstein was the game that started the first-person shooter. It was arguably the first game to sort of let you move around in the first person, which means looking out of your own eyes as opposed to seeing the character. And nothing short of revolutionary as far as that goes. I mean, everybody just went, wow, what's this? This was just such a leap in the amount of visceral experience that you got in that web. I'm here. I'm actually in this room. And I remember several publishers telling me, this is a fad, you know, people aren't going to want to do this. This is good. This is like a couple of years and this will all be over with. And it's just like, no, this is a firm genre now. This is its own thing. When we started the design process for Wolfenstein, the biggest thing that we wanted to carry over was fun. And that was the thing that people seemed to have the most in the first game, a good time. This Return to Castle Wolfenstein is almost kind of retro in a way. I mean, it really kind of harkens back to that sort of golden age of the first-person shooter, but having all the freedom that we have with the engines now, which is now to be able to look up and down and have vast expanses. But it's about fun. The plot basically centers around Himmler and the SS and a lot of sort of fictional divisions of the SS that didn't really exist, but that we've built an occult division, that we have a paranormal division, the genetic scientists, and their desire to basically create something, a power, an evil power under their control that will spell complete disaster for the Allies and the free world. We have the Nazis able to pick up grenades and throw them back at you. You throw a grenade at them, they'll pick it up and they'll throw it back. First and foremost, this is a single-player experience. That's the main thing that we want to have be really, really, really great, is that you can sit by yourself in a room with the lights turned down and the sound turned up and get really creeped out and really immersed and really have a great time.
Now, if the attractive griminess of Castle Wolfenstein looks familiar, it's because many members of the development team are formerly from the company Xatrix, the ones that gave us Kingpin. Now, Treasure is the Japanese game company that gave us Gunstar Heroes for the Genesis and Radiant Silvergun for the Saturn. Now they have a new title, except it's only for Japanese players. Here's a look at the import, Sin and Punishment.
Saki! Oh, Saki! Good morning, Saki.
Good morning, Iron.
Feast your eyes on one of the best games of last year.
Let's go.
Don't recognize it? No surprise, unless you're a gamer living in Japan. Treasure's latest offering comes in the form of a frantic arcade shooter that features addictive gameplay and twisted plot lines. Enter Sin and Punishment, Successor of the Earth. Your roles alternate between Saki and Arian, a pair of rebels that are trying to save humanity from the ruffians, genetically altered beasts that have taken over Tokyo. The controls are simple. You attack by holding down the Z button and press the B button to change aiming between auto and manual. If you tap Z, you can wield a sword that can deflect incoming projectiles and is doubly helpful for close combat. One of Treasure's strengths has always been in the visual department, and Sin and Punishment continues this tradition. At times, there'll be so much on-screen chaos that you may not believe that your N64 was ever capable of such processing power.
You're crazy. You ruined Tokyo. Will you destroy the world, too?
Don't worry.
The most surprising feature in Sin and Punishment is its voice acting, done by American voice actors.
I'll check it out. Wait here.
You're tough, Saki.
Currently, no plans have been made to release Sin and Punishment in the States, but don't let that stop you from finding it on import.
Wait! Stop!
It'll be worth your while to pick this up, especially if you're a fan of classic arcade-style shoot-'em-ups. GameSpot TV gives the Japanese version of Sin and Punishment, Successor of the Earth, a 4 out of 5.
Coming up on GameSpot TV, we show you a peripheral that could make your PlayStation more portable and help you get your game on with a handy, dandy cheat code.
Welcome back to our show here at Metreon in San Francisco.
The PS1 is a small, inexpensive, portable system, but you still need a television to play it.
Now, an detachable screen is available. It doesn't mean you can play it everywhere, but we're getting closer. If you got yourself one of the pint-sized PS1s recently, you've probably been anticipating the release of the LCD screen to help make a rather portable system a little more portable. Well, Pelican has beat Sony to the punch by releasing their LCD screen first. It's the game screen for the PlayStation 1. And what it offers is a 4-inch TFT LCD screen. The 480 by 220 pixel screen just doesn't give the same kind of quality that you would find on your TV set. More importantly, though, is the audio. These speakers here just don't give very decent quality sound. You can get around this, though, by plugging a nice set of headphones into the jack at the back of the PS1. What I found most troubling, though, was the way that the screen fixes itself to the PS1. You attach it to the back, and it allows the screen to close in a clamshell fashion. But when you try to open it and when you play it, it gives a lot of strain to the connection at the back of the console. And I'm afraid that over time, this could start to harm the connection. So what does this come down to? I can't think of too many situations where you find yourself without a television to plug your PS1 into, unless you happen to find yourself in a lot of hotel rooms or on the road. If this does happen to be the case for you, you still may want to wait before picking up the Pelican game screen, because Sony will soon be coming out with their version, and Sony historically has a tradition of making the best peripherals for their consoles. The only reason I could say you should get the Pelican game screen right now is if you need it really badly. Now, the Pelican screen is not the only PS1 screen available. There's also one from Interact, and Sony will be shipping their own sometime soon. Now, this next game is an interesting import title from Japan. It seems to harken back to the good old days of vector graphics and features what appears to be a very deranged bunny.
Well, that artistic style isn't totally out of left field. Vib Ribbon was created by the same guy who brought you Parappa the Rappa and Jammer Lammy. Now, if you've ever been sitting around wondering when you were playing a game what the developers were thinking while they were making it, you can find out with this code for Battle for Naboo.
I'm under fire. My man.
Have you ever wished video games had extras like DVD movies? Maybe you never thought of the idea. Well, here's a code for Star Wars Episode 1 Battle for Naboo that lets you hear commentaries during the game. And the amazing thing is, the game is on a cartridge for the N64.
This level is just a free-for-all. We're going to destroy everything that is the Trade Federation's.
Go to Options, then Passcodes, and enter Talk to Me. During missions, you'll hear the developing team make comments and tell you tips during each level.
Early on, we had a bug where all the different characters either were enemy or friendly. We had no civilian, so the staffs that were flying around on the roadway would actually shoot down the birds. It was pretty nasty. Poor little innocent birds just getting shot out of the sky. It's the only game with flaming birds.
I think we can handle it now.
One helpful tip, always go for the missile turrets first, because they will certainly go for you first.
Of course, this cheat took its inspiration from DVDs, but I hope we see more of it from other developers in the future, because it's one of the most fascinating elements I've seen in a game in a long time.
Well, if you'd like to run some commentary of your own, you can always join us in our chats on Monday nights at 6 p.m. Eastern.
Well, that's about it for our show today. We'd like to give a great big thanks to Metreon for hosting us, and until next time,
Game over.